none of us, we are a very small shop. We have Tanisha and myself represent 50% of our staff. So we're short-staffed right as it is, and we're short-staffed more right now here. But our security platform, if you will, kind of grew organically over the years. So we're not security experts, but it's just how it's evolved. 15 years ago, it was you had a firewall for your network security, and you had antivirus. That was pretty much it, right? And your antivirus was to protect your network from your users, really. But since over the years, the threats have kind of evolved, and so our responses to those threats have also evolved. We're doing a lot more, and over the last couple of years, we've been focused much more on security. So you can do core security, access control lists, all those sorts of things. But one of the things that we wanted to focus on was really an evaluation of where we stand on a regular basis. So we also started doing penetration testing. Is anyone here doing pen testing on their networks? How many? Show of hands. Just one? Yes. Who do you guys use?
In the past.
Not right now?
It was before me.
Okay. Who do you guys use?
I don't know who they're using.
Okay.
Not exactly sure what's required.
Okay. The interesting thing about this is that we all have to operate on kind of a shoestring budget, and there's not a whole lot of funding for these things. So you have to really, if you're talking about security, you have to really be focused on it, and you have to, you can't scrimp on that. That's one thing that you have to say, all right, we need to invest in this. We use a company called Digital Defense, DDI Frontline, and we have a server that sits on the inside of our network, and they also do penetration testing on the outside. And it scans the entire network, so once every quarter, you'll see in some of our logs, you'll see just a blast from this one IP address that's trying to access all of our SSH, whatever SSH servers are running. And it's kind of interesting because there's times when we're like, something's going on with the network, and we remember that we're doing this pen testing. But the problem with pen testing is that it evaluates your network and shows you where your weaknesses are. But without doing the remediation, it's kind of useless. So with DDI Frontline, what they do is they give you a grade on your network, A, B, C, D, F. And so you kind of try your best to work your way up to an A grade. Doesn't always work out that well, but it gives you a good insight to where you're lacking. It looks for things like passwordless printers. That's a big one. People always leave if they stick a network printer on their network printer to their infrastructure. How many people set the password on their printers? Right? You're guilty too. Yeah, no, yeah, sometimes. SNMP is another one. SNMP V2, V1, V2. Because that's typically one of those things that's enabled by default. So what this does is it does a quarterly scan, gives us a report, sends us a report, and then we work on remediation. Of course, for us, the immediate threats are the ones that are external. Our firewalls, strangely enough, actually not strangely enough, it's kind of a well-known vulnerability, suffered from the Poodle exploit, the SSL Poodle exploit. And so we had to remediate that like immediately. The internal stuff is not as critical, but it is something that needs to be addressed as well. So when you're doing penetration testing, remediation is that's when you're doing the actual test, the scans, only one part of it. Remediation is very key to building a stronger network. Are you guys doing pen testing for?
No, I think we should run on the fixed one scan.
Right. Okay. I would honestly highly recommend it if you guys can to find a company that does penetration testing. It's nobody's network is 100% secure, and it's one of those things that's kind of out of sight, out of mind until you get hit. That's what one of the things that we have been over the last couple of years focusing on. We don't want to get hit by something. We have to react. We want to try and be a little bit more proactive on the security. The biggest issue, though, that we have seen, that the real game changer over the last few years, I'm sure everybody has had to deal with this is ransomware. It used to be, like I said, 15 years ago, you had your firewall to protect your edge, and you had your antivirus to protect your network, your users. But ransomware kind of changed the whole landscape of it. Instead of blacklisting the bad stuff, you now have to whitelist the good. What are you guys using for your antivirus, for your endpoint security? Brandon? McAfee? Sophos? Sophos is supposed to have Panda. Oh, Panda. Okay, good. Sophos is supposed to have. They claim that they can now decrypt the ransomware files. Have you experienced that at all?
We haven't seen any, we haven't done anything with that at all. We've been not
Okay. We have, so the last couple of years, we started using a product called Robeson. You guys familiar with it?
What was it now?
Komodo and Komodo endpoint security. I'll be honest with you, it was a pain in the ass. What it does is it protects your entire system by blacklisting everything. So you have to tell it what applications are permissible. And the way it works is that if it sees an application that it doesn't recognize, the fingerprint of which it doesn't recognize, it will let it run, but it runs in a sandbox. So it's really cool, and I've seen people click on. We've actually tested this with it. We've got a crypto wall attachment. We ran it. It ran in a sandbox. It sandboxed the entire machine. So the crypto wall thought it was encrypting everything. Once we rebooted, it was gone. So again, it's a pain to set up because you have to whitelist the applications that are permissible, and then, but once you do that, it's like any sort of desktop firewall where you're allowing certain access through it. Once you do that, it runs much more smoothly, and you're doing it from an enterprise level, so you're pushing out policies to whitelist these various applications. It gets kind of intrusive with the users, but honestly, you're kind of protecting them, so protecting them from themselves, really. And again, with ransomware, the other big part of that is your backup strategy. And you never really think about backup as part of security, but that's now the reality of it.
I'll point out that obviously got ransomware training, all that, and well, in its infancy, when it was easy to clean, and then again, when it, took all files, we had the source file. So after that second one, we obviously started investigating ways to just stop this. And what we've had success with is a simple root policy of locking down the app data on user profiles, not being able to run executables. Most of that stuff runs from the local profile of the user, right?
Exactly.
So we implemented that group policy, and it's been a year and a half or maybe a couple of years now, and we haven't had any infections or problems since.
Really?
Yeah. It's probably been the best thing, and it's simple, right?
Yeah.
I mean, all you do is in that data. So you restrict executables from running. So as long as, if you're trying to install software and, and it's running from any other location, it's fine, but if it tries to execute within the user's app data, it'll block it. And the only issue that we've had, from a false positive perspective is SOSA, BOE software. It breaks that. But, so every time we update SOSA on all the election computers, we have to disable that policy and renew it. But still a simple workaround. But I was just going to point that out. That's been a simple, no-cost fix.
Right.
And it's taken a lot of those infection vulnerabilities down.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I had no idea about that. Anybody else? Yeah.
Yeah, we had actually done that back in 2014, and we still had a couple of ransomware encryption ahead of things. But what we did, we found that some of the attachments would come in with the Word documents. We use JavaScript to execute program. So we set it to where .js files are from the notepad and run on the machine. It still works in the browser. We do it on the machine.
Oh, okay. And that's been successful for you?
Yeah, that's good.
It's not bad. Why is that? What's that? Yeah. What about anyone? Is there anyone that has not been hit in their shop with
We don't want to raise our hand.
How have you guys dealt with it? I mean, we've all been hit. Has anyone actually told their users, sorry, you're screwed?
I did, we do security training once a year, and so I give harsh warnings. If you click on something and it takes over your computer, we are not going to buy it back. That is it. So I give them really strong warnings. So I get quick phone calls of, okay, I might have done something.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure. What do I do? Well,
Yeah.
first thing you do is unplug it from the network and let me come see what's going on. And
Right.
so, yeah, but most of the time, I think the warnings that I give them is pretty strong.
Yeah, the real power we have is just scare that hell out of my head.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, it's like, don't, because we get those calls too. I think I may have done something.
Yeah.
Well,
But we actually, they have a choice whether they store something locally or whether they store it. We have shares on network drives, and if they store it on their PC and they get ransomware,
Yeah, I
so,
told them.
so you actually give them the option of where to store stuff?
We do too.
and if they store it on their PC and they get ransomware, we're just gonna re-end this machine.
Yeah.
So it's just gone and deal with it, we have a protection.
I had a guy that had been hit with ransomware 4 times. There's some
Oh,
people
wow.
there's some people that shouldn't use computers. He's one of them.
I mean, we basically do the same thing with our users. I explain that if you store it on your hard drive and you do not back it up, if the hard drive dies, if you get ransomware, it's gone. I can't get it back for you. I
Yeah.
can't help you.
Right.
And I try to explain that to my users up front. And that way, whenever it happens, they can't say, I didn't say.
We, the whole issue with ransomware, that kind of tactic our users really led us to what Tanisha's going to be showing you guys with Wombat. Getting them to recognize the stuff they really shouldn't be clicking on. We had one user who said, I clicked on this thing because it said I got a traffic ticket last week that I had to pay. I clicked on this thing, I'm like, this says it was a traffic ticket issued in Washington, D.C. Were you in Washington, D.C.? Oh, no. Why the hell did you click on this? So yeah, we have to deal with that. It's amazing that the simple things that you have to tell users to do, just read what it says, read what your computer's telling you, and you'll solve like 90% of your problem. But scaring the piss out of them, that's really great tactic. It really works for us. And Wombat actually does do that. We send out a campaign to everybody, everyone gets an email, and it's from an unknown domain. But they click on it and it'll take them to a big page that you shouldn't have clicked on that. Oops, you wrote it this time, you need to watch out in the future. What does Nova 4 do?
So Nova 4 is similar. We just started using it this fiscal year. Basically, we started out, first off, I got buy-in from my manager, didn't want to make anyone mad up the food chain, but everyone was on board, so we sent out a blast campaign to all of our users just to get a baseline. And I think 70 to 75% of all the users clicked those things.
Wow.
So it was a big, you could put a crack on it at that point. It was visible. You knew you were going with, so that made it crystal clear, and it was obvious we need this. So
The problem is when one of those users that click on it is the county manager.
Yes.
Well, I'm not gonna get into this.
I will.
So anyways, so obviously we sent out a follow-up email to everyone that we got you, and this is the beginning of the extensive training you guys are going to get. And it also serves as our annual security training. Well, no, not campaigns, but.
So the Nova 4 does it actually have the training module built in?
Yeah, so it has security training, it has the phishing campaigns. It has
So security training.
So covered, yeah.
Kevin Mitnick training.
And he's a big part of that.
Yeah.
And they have a free one. We did the free one, and I did it the 2 days before my security training. Didn't tell a soul, not even my boss or the town manager. Yeah, that.
So that isn't the free version.
How'd that go?
So many
It
YouTube
was,
workshops.
and it was very blatant what it was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it was pretty clear to me what it was, and I had about, like you said, 20% click on it, which was
Pretty good.
pretty good. But I've been doing security training since I've been there, which is 5 years.
Yeah.
Which one has it?
No, before, it's a free one, and they'll let you send it out. You have to put in the email addresses, and you send them out, and it's free. And I did that 2 days before the training, and most of the people that clicked on it were the high-level people.
Yeah.
Most of them, yeah.
It's great.
Tanisha, what was the percentage of people that clicked on the first campaign?
On the very first campaign?
Yeah.
Probably about
80%? Yeah, and that's, I think that's rather typical, what we're going to see. Yeah.
Did you train before you did the first?
No, we want to establish a baseline, just to see what people can do, basically. How many people were savvy enough to realize that, hey, I don't know this person, but this looks funky somehow. So, yeah, we didn't want to warn anybody.
Yeah, I didn't want to either.
And yes,
So what do you do with that one user that gets it 5 or 6 times?
I took all the rights away.
yes.
I did. And they can't do anything. Yeah, but I especially took their rights away.
You lock them down to being able to do only what they absolutely need to do.
So they're
How do you
using
get
it
away with
not
that?
basically.
Stuff like that, with weekend people fighting us saying, I absolutely have to be able to listen to my Pandora to do my job.
Well,
Oh, I put in a policy. So
Yeah.
I did a policy that says you
Yeah.
cannot use the bandwidth for things of personal nature. I created a policy. I haven't gotten council to sign it yet, but the town manager's on board.
and we haven't touched on that, but your end user or your user policy, computer use policy, and your security policy play a big part in all of this. You have to have the teeth to do the
Right.
Because without it, you don't have to fight.
Right. It's like, look, it's not that way. It's not me.
Right. This is
This policy, yeah. And I tell them, bring a radio. If you want music, I have a radio. It's an emergency radio in my office. That's what I listen to. I don't listen to the computer.
There's this magical AM/FM band that's
That's
been
it.
around.
That's it. And you know what?
Little
When
silver
the,
thing you pull out there.
when the electricity goes off, my radio's still playing.
Yeah. There you go.
The thing about it is that sometimes what I found is that the ones that are violating policy are the managers.
Yes.
They're the ones listening to Pandora and they're streaming and stuff. So I think it's all right for them to do it, but otherwise.
Right. And that's why the policy, any policy you put in place has to go from the top.
It does. And so what I do then is I go into the Meraki and I granularly
You
knocked down their,
Is really
Yeah,
nice.
you throttle them down.
Yeah.
yes, I throttle them down so that they don't eat up the whole bandwidth, and then they, if it works, great, if it doesn't, I'm sorry, we're reducing the bandwidth.
Yeah, I mean, if it gets to that, you know, our job is to make sure they can do their job.
Yes.
And if they're consuming resources that keeps others from doing their jobs, then, you know, that's, the fact that you can't listen to Pandora or you can't watch your videos or whatever, that's not a high priority for us. All right. We used to be, when I started, I was the computer Nazi. I was like, no, you can't do this thing. And I didn't like being that way, so I kind of did more of a hands-off approach. I'm like, okay, look, my job is to make sure that you have access. That's it. So as long as, you know, I was there, I acted as the end user's ISP, basically. From a policy standpoint, they're doing something they shouldn't be doing. It's not my job to police that. That's their manager's job. And so, if they're sitting in their cubicle all day watching cat videos on YouTube, I may go and tell the tax administrator, the DSS administrator, whatever. I may go and tell them, hey, look, you got someone over here that you probably need to keep an eye on. But I'm not going to go and write them up for anything. That's not, I don't have that power to do that.
Do you have anything formally in place for like reporting to managers about usage and?
Not formally, no, but that's something that we are working with. And again,
Usually just a simple email.
yeah,
Yeah.
and the thing about our model is that, like I said, it kind of developed organically, and it's still developing. We're not 100% where we want to be with security and with and the biggest roadblock that we have is management. Is presenting this in a way to our county commissioners that we need this because, you know, we need to limit what people can do because of the X factors, you know, that, and honestly, one of the best cases to use is Horry County Schools, public schools in South Carolina, when they got hit with ransomware and they wound up paying the ransom, having to pay the ransom because they didn't have good backup data. I can't remember how much it was, but some astronomical amount of money. So you don't, you just tell them you don't want that to be in the paper. You don't want your name to be next to that stored in the paper. And typically, hopefully, they're introspective enough to say, you're probably right.
Yeah, so we, after that, obviously, I told them that, we then said, you know, hey, coming up, it's going to be, we decided to just give everyone a 15-minute training. It's not going to be overwhelming, simple, and it hits all the high levels, so everyone has to complete that. After doing that, we did another campaign, you know, obviously, you know, as discreetly as possible. And I think our clicks dropped down maybe 20, 25%. So we saw immediate improvement, still not where it needs to be. And basically everyone that clicks, we then said, okay, now you're going to take an additional 30 minutes and send them all of that stuff.
So you increase the pay.
We increased it. Yeah. And then we've had some subsequent follow-up clicks after that, and we're like, well, okay, here's a 45 minute.
And that's all well and good, but the issue with that is that the average attention span of the user is about 6 or wrong. So the modules, what are they called, teachable moments? Those, we limit them to 3 to 5 minutes max if we can. Otherwise,
there's different landing page options,
right?
So you can have just a, hey, you messed up, or hey, here's a quick 2-minute video, or whatever. You know, there's all kinds of options.
There's some that after they watch the video, they have to go back and answer the questions.
Right.
And if the questions aren't answered, then you know they've walked away and they
Yes.
just set the video to play and they really didn't watch it.
And that's what we have on ours. We have those metrics.
And
go back.
acknowledgement.
Yeah, and acknowledgements of those who did the training and those who did not.
You're talking about Wanda?
Yes. Yeah, that's what we're using. And anecdotally, we have had it where people come up to us after going through this, after going through a campaign, doing the training. Hey, I got this email, I didn't click on it because it looked funny. Great. And they do this, the one thing we stress is that this is not going to help you just at work, it's going to help you at home too. And so I've gone into departments where department heads will come up to me and say, yeah, so-and-so got this email. They asked me about it, told them not to click on it. And we'll still get things sent to our help desk. Hey, this thing was kind of funky, so.
Now.
Yeah, now. So without even having the actual statistics of how many clicks we've seen, we're actually seeing a response from the users themselves. And it's been, for the most part, it's been positive. I don't think we've had a negative reaction to it at all.
Yeah, we get some that are like, why do I have to take this training? But it's very few. I mean, most people, I
Yeah.
think, appreciate it, and I think we just made paranoid enough now that.
Yes.
They're very.
Yeah, and even the ones that are kind of slack with getting the training done, they get reminders. They get sent an email reminders for this, hey, you haven't done this training, and they'll call us, do I have to do it? I'm like, yeah, you have to do it. You wouldn't have signed it if you didn't have to do it. You want to?
We just had, one user a couple of weeks ago in one of our departments that did get hit by principal. And she calls us to say, I think my computer is infected with kryptonite. She knew exactly what it was. She's been through the training. She read the email, decided to click on it anyway, and these are her words. I knew it was probably a virus. But I clicked on it anyway. And because of that, she was kicking herself in the butt because her entire computer had rewritten and she lost everything.
And she was on that one. She was not on our network technically, so she wasn't using our network resources. She didn't have any network shares that she sourced upon. Everything was going local.
But she has gone through several of the security trainings.
Yeah, some people are beyond hope.
But has she learned her lesson?
Oh, very much so.
Yes.
And that's part of it, is that once they do get hit, do they respond the way they need to?
Yes.
She did, definitely, because she got a computer back with nothing on it.
I've had users with,
And the other thing about that is that there was no one to blame but herself.
Yep.
right,
She couldn't come back on IT and say, hey, you guys should protect me.
if you take their machine away, you re-image it, and then 3 days later bring it back to them, it had to work for 3 days without a computer.
Yeah.
They learned some lessons.
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
they become very appreciative.
Yeah. Yeah. Tanisha, do you want to go into Wombat?
Okay, this is the security education platform that we use. Wombat has taken on, they have one assessment training called Fish Guru, which is where you can set up trainings actually. It used to be part of the mock fishing campaigns, but now they just have training sessions. These are the type of trainings that you can do on email security, URL training, and social engineering. And what we do with these are, normally these trainings here are normally around 15 minutes each. So say if you want to send out a campaign on email security, it'll teach you how to spot fraudulent emails. We're not going to do this because it's going to take too long. And then our URL training module, fraudulent URLs, and social engineering. I cannot scan one person. The thing that we love about this so much is not just the fish guru, but then this part called the threats and fishing. This is where our fishing campaigns go in. And if I'm going too fast, that's okay. But these are some of the training modules that we have set up, some of the campaigns that we have sent out. The good thing about this is it tells you how many have been sent, how many have been opened for each campaign that you sent out. Now, we have sent out different campaigns. We sent out one campaign for the health department, one campaign for DSS because they're so long. I'm going to use the health department as an example. the data collection that you get from them, it will actually tell you. It can tell you how many have been sent, how many have responded, how many opened, how many have clicked.
What was actually sent though?
Yeah, show them the
Want to
email.
see the actual email that was sent out? Okay.
And the last campaign that we did was, I think, either the week of, the week before the storm, so the responses weren't indicative of what we normally see. Because we were, right after it was sent, we were without power for a week. So,
Okay, so this was one of our campaigns that was sent out. Yes, on how to spot a fish. So we sent them a letter. This was actually a reminder about the original email, but I'm gonna show you exactly what the original email looked like. It was called Fishing 101. And this is what they received. They received a link telling them to actually go through the training. And so with this one, it just explains to them what fishing is. And the people who did not actually go through it didn't know, but at the bottom, is basic information on what fishing is. At the bottom, you have to click on complete training, which a lot of people did not do. These are the ones that actually answered, they thought this, and the other they thought.
yes.
Well, what happens is when we send an email like this out, we see if you open it, and then we see if you click on it. See, just because you open it, some people still don't click on it, especially if you're using Outlook. You can double click and open it, but you still haven't actually clicked on the actual link, because each email has a link inside of it. So, Okay,
This is the training email, this
Yes.
is not the fishing email.
right, now, this one is just a training email.
Can you show them what the end user actually sees?
This has like a lot of different types, like levels of severity, of hardness and all that.
Yeah.
It's like you can pick a real easy one, or you can pick, like some of the super, like the level 5 or hard ones, I fear I might click on it. It's so good.
Yeah, yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, this one was one that was sent out. I'm trying to see.
Yeah, we had, someone click on that one because they said they were expecting a delivery.
Yeah, this one was beautiful. This one was absolutely beautiful.
So the pricing modules, I just glanced at one that while we were non-teachable moment, I glanced at one that, not really, no, I was listening. You know, for the two different products, what's the pricing module? I mean, you have to have like, because you talked about the three different types, you got email, you got URL, and you've got social media. Is there separate prices for each of the modules, or yes? I'm sorry, because when I look on the reviews, it just like says Wombat, $25 per user.
Now, I will tell you this, when we first started this 2 years ago, Wombat was kind of separate from, they acquired, I think they acquired Fish Cooler, right?
Right.
So-
But they acquired Threatsim.
Preston, okay. So when we first saw demoed Wombat, it was just those, the phishing campaigns and some other security modules and teachable moments. The training was 3 to 5 minutes each. The Threat Sim, when they acquired Threat Sim, they actually kind of expanded it to like no before, like Ray was saying, to have 15-minute training sessions, 30-minute training sessions. And we tried to opt down to keep our users' attention by using what they call the teachable moments as opposed to training.
Right. As in,
But if we have an egregious user that maybe gets ransomware 4 times, we'll make them do the longer training sessions.
So it's $25 per email user, per computer.
I really
Yeah,
think it's based on because they're very good at customizing. So as far as the price goes, that's just gonna depend on the organization.
Yeah.
They don't have like a baseline.
We were paying like $8,000 I think we started at $8 grand a year for the fish guru stuff, and that was for up to 1,000 users, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
I don't remember specifically off the top of my head, but I feel it was somewhere in the range of $9 to $11 a user. What we paid.
Yeah.
And how do you spell the name of the product you use?
It's no people, so KNOWBE and then
We just quoted, no before, and, for 500, or 501 to 1,000 employees, it was like 11.25 per person.
Okay.
Is that's a year?
yeah.
Yes.
I think Wombat was one of the earliest, the first fishing campaigns that actually had the training module built into it. And that's why we went with Wombat. Why we went with Wombat. How long has Nova Four been around?
Well, so they send out a newsletter, like the Cyber Fees thing, and I was just looking at that for probably a good year or so, and I would share some of that information with users, but I know they just ramped up a lot over the last year, so I don't know when they started, but I think it's not been around that long, a couple of years maybe.
So,
Do they have a training module built in?
Yeah, and we're actually mandating an annual security now to help us. I mean, we kind of just should be our security for that, that makes compliance. But then they have targeted training, like they have PCI module, they'll have a credit card module.
can you do it
They have all kinds of different.
to pay a little
They can also send out fishing on the schedule.
Yeah,
Set up
and
a
random
schedule,
ones.
they do
Yeah.
it themselves,
Yeah.
you don't have to.
Another thing about
gentleman-
Florida too is they have
Yeah.
they have a deal where if they give you a guarantee that if you get hit, they'll pay you a Bitcoin and help you
No,
pay for it.
there is fine print on that.
There is fine print, you gotta have so many dollars invested, and you gotta send out a fishing test once a month. You gotta follow, there's a lot of rules you have to follow, but they do have a guarantee if you do follow all those rules.
The fishing test once a month, is it, or whenever the frequency, how much does that cost on top of the
It doesn't,
11.25?
it's all, it's part of
You're doing an annual subscription.
It's part of it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're trying to do about once a quarter.
Once a quarter.
And we'll do it sporadically, so like not everyone gets the same email at one time.
Yep.
Because that was kind of where
Word of mouth.
Yeah, we started out, we'll do different levels, varying degrees.
So it's basically software as a service and
Yes.
annual, and
It's
when you
a-
buy it,
like
you
a-
get it, you test it, you get the testing, the training, whatever.
And they have, I think they have different packages, like you get, like there's one module where you get all this training, or there's a module where you get basic training.
Yeah.
So they do have some different packages.
They do have very good customer service too, but the girl that called me, she helped me step through everything. It's very helpful, so,
They also have, you have, how many domains can you select from to send a campaign from?
From, like, yes, where it's gonna appear, I think, is anything, I think you can type in your own domain, like where you want it from.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But they have some built-in ones, or.
Yeah. They've got the one thing they tell you is that, you don't want to, you want your users to trust you, so you don't want to use any of your own domains. You don't want them to think that you're trying to catch them. And so,
Okay, so I just set up a mod fishing campaign, and as soon as I did it, this is the email that you received. And it has your name, your email address, and this is who it is from. And this is actually the last campaign that we sent out to people. And the response was, what I normally try to do is send something that is completely different from the last campaign that we sent. So as where one may have had an attachment in it, I'll try to send out another one that has a link, or maybe a small link where they don't even realize that it could possibly be. Now, we did have a lot of people, we had quite a few people who recognized it, didn't we?
yes,
More department managers recognize it than anything else.
and they've started forwarding them to our.
To our help desk, yeah.
So they've got a selection of templates to choose
Yes.
from?
Yes, it is, I'll show you, it's a huge selection.
Click on one of those.
If you click on, say, get shipment info.
You need that up
That
there.
was supposed to happen. this is the thing.
Now, do you have a choice of like how snarky you wanna be with your?
Oh, yeah, you
You
can.
really weren't expecting, you could say, you really weren't expecting a DHL package, were you? You know?
Right.
You can actually customize.
Yes, you can do whatever you want. Even though you're calling idiots for clicking on it, but.
That might be your last campaign.
Yeah.
Can you
Now that I was thinking of.
And after like the gentleman here said, you know, he had a user 5 or 6 times. I mean, after a while, you know, hit them in the fields, like take their lunch hour away or something.
Yeah.
Take their email away.
Yeah, take their
I mean, just take their email away.
Yeah.
The complicated thing about this is.
Yes, absolutely.
Just to show you can change. You can change, what they receive, just that quickly.
And then the plugin detection, that was part of this.
Right. So, same email, but I just changed what they see once they click on it.
Is there any way to put an audible alert on there as well?
Oh.
You don't want to put the screen face.
Or the sound from that grudge movie, you're like,
They also, actually, Wombat also has an Outlook plugin that you can deploy for your end users. If they get
Yes.
a phishing email, they can report it. And it will go to your help desk also.
It's called
Phishing.
Yeah, so like with this one, how it actually shows what happens when you fall for a fish, and it takes you through the whole process, and you can just know.
Thank you.
Another thing that this does that is really great, are the plugin detections. You see, it lets you know which plugins that they have on their browser and whether or not they're up to date. Someone was asking about the different type of campaign. It is literally huge. These are all the.
Are these something that you have to create, or is this something that?
No, these are already created. For instance, if you wanted to do a campaign on email password change, you just click on it, and I honestly don't have to do anything else. Once you click on it, you can this right here shows you what it looks like. But if you want to see for yourself what it looks like, you just can go down and send yourself a test movie.
The last one we did was, what that's anniversary was just recently. And there's a template that was out there for us saying, hey, celebrating pizza's anniversary, click here to get your free pizza.
Oh, jeez.
And there's some people that really wanted free pizza.
Yeah,
How many
no
free
before
pieces?
creates templates, relevant viruses
Yeah,
that are
they
out,
do.
holidays.
But, yeah, the problem is, and we all doing like government, our users, and you can say excuse or you can say reasoning is, when they get an email, you can't say, hey, were you expecting something from this person, blah, 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 because lots of times they're not expecting something from, they're getting letters from citizens, or they're getting, literally saying, hey, I got this, that they get valid attachments, where somebody's scanning all over, they got it inappropriately, or their utility bill. So they're getting emails with attachments from people they don't know. And I mean, this is a great idea, but I'm just saying, you get that argument from people going, I did not click on something because, this might be a citizen who's got an issue with the police department.
Yeah, but a lot of the times, you have to look at how the email is structured.
Right, it's the content.
Yeah.
I mean, I know, but I'm saying explaining to users.
Normally
Yeah.
these emails have words that are misspelled, or there's some content in it that is very strange.
Bad English is a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That English.
And the bank, it's a bank you don't bank with.
Right.
It's a, yeah,
Right,
it's,
routing information.
right, it's all of the things that you go, okay, these are red flags, maybe
Mhm.
I shouldn't click on this. And through my class every year, and I do reiterate if we start to have issues, I'll have another class. But that, through that class, I go through those components, you know, the word invoice in the, subject line with some numbers.
Yeah,
And then a PDF, it will not.
right.
It won't, it's done, you don't ever click on it, and I've filtered some of that stuff. And so having their class and education, and, you know, if you don't bank with that bank, don't open it. If you didn't, you know, if you paid your taxes last year, don't open the IRS one. I mean, absolutely, and IRS isn't gonna send you an email anyway.
And with ransomware, the latest iteration that I've seen is becoming in zip files.
Yeah.
So nobody should be getting a zip file from somebody that they're not expecting it from.
Right.
You know?
I have
If
it
you're not
blocked.
blocking zip files. right?
I have it blocked,
Yeah,
I have zip files blocked.
yeah.
So what do you tell your end users who need to receive?
Rename it.
So rename it,
Mhm.
or I have on our website, there's a way to copy files up and down, and a lot of times it's us sending files out, so I'll have them loaded on the website and not publish that link, but send that link to someone, and then they can download those files that are rather big, because the planning department has to send these files
And
out.
are you using, what are you using for that? Are you using Box or?
No, our website allows us to throw 100 meg files up.
Oh, okay.
And so that's usually enough for them, and I just let them throw it up there, and then every couple of months I go in and delete all that stuff. I just let them use the website and create it, so a little link, and I don't let them publish the page. So they just take that link and then send that to somebody, and then they can download those files.
We let our Barracuda catch it.
Yeah.
So when our Barracuda gets it, if they know they're receiving a zip file, they'll call us and say, hey, I'm looking for a zip file. Then we'll release it from our
Right.
Barracuda. That's
Right.
what we do.
Right. But yeah, it's a challenge. What you brought up is really a challenge when you're dealing with people who have to deal with the public. Maybe at these things that aren't necessarily malicious, but you're, but really that's what the training is all about, is how to spot the stuff that may look legitimate, but just to use a little bit of common sense when you're going through your email. And like I said, we've had some really positive response from it. People have caught things that they historically probably would have clicked on.
I sent out an email to all my users February 25th of this year, when CryptoLocker was like really big in the news, and knock on something. I haven't had any issues, and I was very straightforward with them. I said I'm sure you've all seen the CryptoLocker virus on the news recently. School and hospital networks have paid ransom money to regain access to their files after they were taken hostage by overseas hackers. This is serious business and not something that only happens in movies or fantasy. While I take every precaution to prevent an attack such as this, I ask that you as the end user to please be responsible when opening any email with attachments or suspicious links. If the person you received it from is not known or the attachment is oddly named, please immediately delete the email. Please use your best judgment when opening an unexpected email. If you have to question it, chances are it's a bogus email that could possibly harm your computer and or worse, our citywide network. Thank you for taking the time to read this. I've included a few informative links that may be of interest. Working together, we can be productive and keep our network virus and malware free.
And sending, yeah, that's very good. Sending something out like that out periodically once a month, just as a
Right.
reminder.
I've used that as my fish.
Stick a few links in there, yeah.
That's a whole lot of time cleaning your PC.
Yeah.
If people are worried that the website says, you've got 37 viruses, and what's
Right.
the first thing to do?
Click on it.
Now they go, right.
Yeah.
Same lines of using something that appears to be helpful as you fish.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about the ransomware people is that they've really organized. I mean, they want to ensure if they hold someone's data hostage and they don't send them the decryption keys, then their whole business model is out the window.
That's $1 billion business.
And these ransomware companies actually have companies that are their tier 1 support.
Yes.
They actually have call centers for the
And
frickin'.
it's nuts. It's
Yeah,
grown into.
crazy to think.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
have some ransomware that even now, once it gets installed, it has a check number.
Mhm.
Get support, so they can tell you how to send the bitcoins.
Blackmail is a business. That's all we have. So if you guys have any more questions?
Hey, Mark, you need to still fill 10 more minutes.
No, that's all I have. Chris, come in here and talk for 10 minutes.
No, you don't have any change for
Start
me.
talking.
Yeah, no problem with that.
We have a.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We have a primary and,